Hi everybody, Emily Kidlit Book Love. I'm here to talk about a beautiful, wonderful book that I loved called The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson. And I had never heard of this book. I picked it up at a used vintage bookstore. This book was written in 1958 and it's just such a wonderful book. I read it in like 2 hours, maybe an hour. I don't know. It was such a good book. I didn't even stop until it was done. Natalie Carlson was an author of many children's books, and she actually won the Hans Christian Andersen Award in 1966, or she was a nominee for it for some of her children's books. She published her first story at the age of 8 for the Baltimore Sunday Sun. And The Family Under the Bridge was a runner-up of the 1959 Newberry Award winner book, which is why it has this seal here. And so the story takes place in Paris, and it's about a homeless man, Armand, a Frenchman who hates children and thinks he hates children, and had a rough life, but he doesn't believe in working, so he kind of is a self-induced homeless man. But he comes across these what he thinks are orphan children living under a bridge, looking cold and also homeless, which was his spot, living under the bridge. And so he, of course, wants them gone and away from his space, but then he starts to find he's worrying about them and feels responsible for them. And then it turns out they do have a mother who has a job, but they didn't have enough money, so they lost their apartment. And so she's gone during the day, leaving the children alone under the bridge. And Armand sort of starts taking care of them, taking them around. He takes them to see Santa Claus, because the whole book takes place around Christmas, and in the end, he kind of becomes their grandfather figure, and he and the mother together end up getting jobs. Armand finally decides to go back into the working world and not be homeless anymore and be responsible, because he felt responsible for these kids and to help the mother. Like, he took on the mother as sort of like his daughter and the kids as his grandkids, and then together the mother and Armand ended up getting, these jobs where they're managing an apartment or something, and they get a free residence. So it's really a wonderful story. The writing is just beautiful, and it is a novel, but it does have a good amount of illustrations, black and white drawings. I don't know if they're charcoal or what they are. So that really was nice to read. Really nice book, quick read. Just a wonderful story. I just loved it. I have a brother, my only sibling, who's has been homeless off and on a lot of his life due to drugs. So this really made me feel hopeful. I felt hopeful for him that there's hope, after 20 years, that maybe someday he'll have an opportunity to be motivated enough to get his life together. And it really touched me, maybe more than another person because of that. But the writing itself was wonderful. I'm going to read you a few pages. Once there was an old hobo named Armand who wouldn't have lived anywhere but in Paris, so that is where he lived. Everything that he owned could be pushed around in an old baby buggy without any hood, so he had no worries about rents or burglars. All the ragged clothes he owned was on his back, so he didn't need to bother about trunks or dry cleaners. It was easy for him to move from one hidey hole to another. So that is what he was doing one late morning in December. It was a cold day with a gray dark sky hanging on the very chimney pots of Paris. But Armand did not mind, because he had a tickly feeling that something new and exciting was going to happen to him today. So, there's some interesting foreshadowing technique in here. He hummed a gay tune to himself as he pushed his buggy through the flower market at the site of Notre Dame Cathedral. The flowers reminded him that someday it would be spring, even though it wasn't just quite winter yet, but it was cold enough. There were pots of fragile hyacinth and tulips crowded together on planks in front of the stalls. There were pink carnations and oleanders in great tin pails. Most of all, there were banquets of red beaded holly, clumps of white pearled mistletoe, and little green fir trees, because it would soon be Christmas. And this is the very first 2 pages, by the way. And by the way, the reading, so there are some more complicated sentences like what I read, a lot of dashed words, a lot of hyphened words, some bigger words, nothing vocabulary-wise that I had to look up myself like you find in some of the older literature, but it would be a bit of a, not exactly a younger child read. So Armand goes along, and he's going along the streets, and he's talking to a woman, a street vendor, and Armand says, "I can't abide children," grumped Armand. "Starlings, they are. Witless, twittering little pests." So it's really made clear up front that he doesn't like children. But that's why this is so heartwarming, because when he finds these homeless children, it changes him. And it's just a wonderful growth tale, a happy ending for everybody. The children are adorable, brave, genuine, sincere, innocent, really aware of all they want is something to eat. All they want is a real home from Santa. So that kind of actually reminded me a little bit of A Miracle on 34th Street, a little bit of that, not in the homeless factor, but the girl wanting the house and her mom to get married. So Newberry Honor book winner, and just, very simple back, very small book. It's only about 90 pages. Little novella. Love it. Can't recommend it enough. She actually wrote another few books. One that I ordered called The Happy Orphaline. I think it's about an orphan. I'm not sure. I haven't got it yet. I could not find a copy anywhere in a new print, so I had to get a vintage copy of it, The Happy Orphaline, on eBay, and it's on the way in the mail to me. And really excited to read that. So I will leave another review about Natalie Carlson's work when I read that. Get this book. If you're an adult particularly, and you know that I love and emphasize adults reading children's literature, read it. It's such a good book. I love this book. It's so good. Thanks for watching, and as always, check out all my other book reviews, monthly book hauls, and shopping expeditions for great books for yourself, your kids, and your family.